In order to be able to multiply a polynomial by a monomial, you need to be able to do three things. You need to know how to use your distributive property, you need to know your rules for multiplying monomials, and you need to know how to combine like terms. The first step we use is our distributive property. I'm going to take what's outside my parentheses and distribute it to everything inside my parentheses. So 9x times 3x squared is going to give me 27x cubed. Then I'm going to take this 9x, distribute it to my middle term, which is a negative 5x. So 9x times negative 5x will give me negative 45x squared. And then finally I take that 9x and distribute it to my last term, which is 4. 9x times 4 gives me 36x. The last step is to combine like terms. So what I want to do is look at all these terms and see if I have anything that has the same exponent with the same variable. Here I have an x cubed, here I have an x squared, and here I have an x. So since I don't have any powers of x that are the same, there's nothing to combine together, and this is my answer. Now the problems are going to get a little more complicated, but they're still going to follow the exact same process. You take what's outside your parentheses and distribute it. 3x times 2x squared gives me 6x cubed. 3x times 6x gives me 18x squared. And 3x times negative 5 is going to give me negative 15x. Now that's the end of my parentheses, so this 3x isn't going to distribute past my parentheses. But if I look at this problem, I notice I have another term here that will distribute to my second set of parentheses. So 6x times 5x gives me 30x squared. And then finally, 6x times 2 gives me 12x. Now it's time to look and see if there's anything that can combine together. So when I look, I see I have an x cubed, x squared, x squared, x. The only x cubed term I have is 6x cubed, so there's nothing to combine with that. I notice that I have an 18x squared and a 30x squared. Since they both have x squared, those two terms can be combined together. 18x squared plus 30x squared gives me a 48x squared. And then I notice also that I have a negative 15x right here and a positive 12x. Those both have just an x term, so they can be combined together. Negative 15x plus 12x gives me negative 3x. And that's your final simplified answer. You can also apply this process to solving equations. Same idea with our distributive property and combining like terms, except at the end we'll be able to find out what our variable actually equals. So the first thing I want to do is look at this. This 7b is not distributed. It's not being multiplied by anything. So I'm just going to write down 7b. And then I notice that this b is being multiplied by these parentheses, so I am going to distribute it. b times negative 2 gives me a negative 2b. And then this b times b gives me a b squared. Then on the other side of my equal sign, this b is going to distribute to these parentheses. So b times 12 gives me a 12b. And then I have that b times b, which will give me a b squared. That's the end of my parentheses, so no more distributing. But I do have a negative 14 that's on the outside here, right on the end. So now I want to look at this. Before I solve anything or start moving my variables around, I want to see if this equation can be simplified in any way. And I notice that on this side I have 7b minus 2b, which I can simplify just to be 5b. So I've got 5b plus b squared equals 12b plus b squared minus 14. To solve an equation, we need all our variables on one side and all the numbers on the other side. So I'm going to move this b squared to combine it with my other b squared. So I'm going to subtract b squared on both sides. When I do that, I'm left with a 5b, but look, my b squared and my negative b squared are going to cancel out and become 0. So on the other side of my equal sign, I have a 12b, and again, I've got a b squared minus a b squared, so that's like 0, and my minus 14. So now, let's get all of our b's together. On the opposite side of our problem is our number, so I'm going to start by subtracting 12b on both sides. That'll move my b's to the left side of my equation, negative 7b, and all my numbers are going to be on the right side, negative 14. And to finish off this problem, I just divide by negative 7, that'll isolate my b, and I find out that my answer is b equals 2.